I'll never forget the sting of that moment. We were walking down the street, her group of friends trailing just a few steps behind us, laughing at some inside joke. I reached out, as I always did, just to hold her hand. Nothing dramatic, just a simple gesture, a way of saying, I'm here, I'm yours. But before my fingers even brushed hers, she snapped back like my touch was poison. Her voice cut through the air, sharp enough to slice through me. Don't touch me, Kevin. You'll embarrass me. The laughter behind us didn't stop. It grew louder. A couple of her friends covered their mouths, pretending not to laugh, but I could feel the heat of their eyes burning into me. My hand hung in the air like a fool's, and all I could do was let it drop back to my side. She didn't even look at me. She just tossed her hair back, smiled at them, and kept walking like I wasn't even there. I swallowed the humiliation, forcing a thin smile, telling myself, don't make a scene. Just let it go. But inside, I was crumbling. I had never felt so small, so invisible. I told myself maybe she was just stressed. Maybe she didn't mean it, but that excuse rang hollow against the sound of their muffled laughter. And if I thought that was the worst humiliation she'd throw at me, I had no idea what was coming next. We met back in college. She was the kind of girl people noticed the second she walked into a room. Confident, magnetic, the one who never had to try too hard because attention followed her like a shadow. I wasn't the loudest guy, not the funniest, not the one people gravitated toward. But somehow, she smiled at me one day across the library, and that smile was enough to make me believe I'd won the lottery. From the beginning, I was hooked. I told myself she was out of my league, but the more we talked, the more I convinced myself she saw something in me others didn't. And maybe she did, but I also noticed the little things I chose to ignore. She corrected me when I mispronounced a word in front of her friend. She brushed off my hand in crowded places, saying she didn't want people to think we were clingy. She craved the spotlight, and I was content standing just outside of it, holding her bag, waiting quietly for her to be done shining. I sacrificed more than I realized at the time. I skipped nights out with friends because she wanted me by her side. I picked up extra shifts so I could surprise her with gifts, dinners, vacations she bragged about online. I encouraged her every time she doubted herself, telling her she was destined for more. To everyone else, she was the perfect girlfriend, beautiful, ambitious, well put together. And I played along, letting the world think I was the lucky one. But behind closed doors, I felt the distance growing. She wasn't cruel outright, not yet, just cold, detached, like my love was something she expected but never planned to return. I told myself she was stressed, that this was just her personality, that love meant being patient through the rough edges. I clung to that idea like it was gospel, but I couldn't see it then. My patience wasn't fixing anything. It was only feeding her contempt. I thought love meant being patient with her moods, but her next move made me question everything I believed about loyalty. It started with little things, the kind you almost laugh off until they pile up so high you can't see over them anymore. Parties, whenever I tried to join in, she'd cut me off mid-sentence. If I cracked a joke, she'd roll her eyes and say, "That's Kevin, he tries." People would chuckle, not realizing she wasn't teasing with love, but cutting me down piece by piece. I told myself not to take it personally, but every laugh at my expense chipped away at something inside me. Then came the comments about my job. I work in an office, steady paycheck, good benefits, not glamorous but solid. One night, one of her friends asked what I did, and before I could answer, she jumped in, "Oh, Kevin, he just does basic office work. Nothing exciting." She said it with that sing-song voice people use when they're half bored, half dismissing. Her friends smirked, and I felt about 2 inches tall. Still, I endured it, quietly, patiently, because I thought love meant swallowing your pride sometime. But it got worse. She started guarding her phone like it held state secrets. Always face down, notifications off, stepping outside to answer calls in a hushed voice. At first, I believed her excuses, late deadlines, urgent projects. But when she canceled dinner with me one Friday, claiming she was swamped at work, and I saw her tagged in a bar photo with a drink in her hand, the doubt dug in deep. I tried to confront her gently. I told her I felt like she was pulling away, that I just wanted honesty. She laughed, actually laughed, and said, "You're paranoid. Stop acting insecure, Kevin. It's not attractive." Her words stung, but more than that, they planted seeds of self-doubt. Was I paranoid? Was I too sensitive, too boring, too plain? She seemed so alive when she was with others, and yet with me, it was like she couldn't wait to escape. The breaking point of that stage came one night when I walked past the living room while she was on speakerphone with her friend. She didn't know I could hear her. I froze in the hallway as her voice carried, "Kevin's fine, but he's just boring." Honestly, I'm keeping my options open. I don't want to settle too soon. Boring. Options open. Those words sliced through me like knives. I felt my stomach drop, my chest tighten. And yet, I didn't storm in. I didn't confront her. I just stood there in the dark, listening to the woman I loved talk about me like I was nothing more than a placeholder. That night, I stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying everything. The interruptions, the dismissals, the secrets, the lies. I kept asking myself if I had done something wrong, if I had failed her by being too steady, too reliable. Was loyalty really that dull in her eyes? I thought I'd already hit rock bottom with the humiliation and the whispers, but I was wrong. And just when I thought things couldn't sink any lower, I caught her in the act. The night it all came crashing down is etched into my memory like a scar I'll carry forever. I hadn't planned to catch her. I wasn't lurking, I wasn't setting traps. I was just driving home after a late shift, stomach growling, thinking I'd grab something quick to eat. That's when I saw her car parked outside a restaurant, the one we used to go to for anniversaries. My chest tightened. Maybe she was with coworkers, I told myself. Maybe it was innocent, but the knot in my gut told me otherwise. I pulled in, my hands clammy on the steering wheel, and walked toward the glass windows. And there she was. My girlfriend, the woman I'd sacrificed for, sitting across from another man, her eyes lit up like fireworks, her hand resting over his on the table. She was laughing. God, that laugh, a sound she hadn't made around me in months. I froze. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My body felt numb, like I'd been dropped into ice water. I wanted to storm in, to demand answers, but instead I just stood there, watching the truth play out right in front of me. When she finally noticed me, her smile faltered, her face draining of color. The man turned to look at me, confused. I walked inside, my steps steady, my voice calm though my heart was thundering. So this is what you've been busy with? I asked, my eyes never leaving hers. She pulled her hand back, scowling. Kevin, what are you doing here? This isn't what it looks like. I shook my head. No, it's exactly what it looks like. Her expression hardened, and then, like always, she went on the attack. You're pathetic, Kevin. Always hovering, always doubting. You drove me to this with your insecurity. The man shifted uncomfortably, clearly realizing he'd walked into something ugly. But she wasn't done. She leaned back, arms crossed, her voice dripping with disdain. I was never really in love with you. You were just safe placeholder. And honestly, I'm embarrassed you even came in here. The words hit like a sledgehammer, but what destroyed me wasn't what she said next. It was how she said it. Loud, cold, deliberate. She smirked, glanced at her date, and sneered, "Don't touch me, Kevin. You're embarrassing." It was the same line she'd thrown at me before, only this time it was final, sharp enough to carve me out of her life in front of someone new. Something inside me broke then, but not the way she expected. I didn't yell, I didn't beg, I didn't even try to defend myself. Instead, I felt an almost eerie calm wash over me. I realized there was nothing left to save. So I stood there, nodded once, and turned around. No words. No scene, no desperate attempt to win her back. My silence was my answer. I walked out of that restaurant, out to my car, and I swear the night air never felt so heavy. I drove away without looking back, without checking my phone, without giving her a single chance to twist the knife again. That silence became my weapon. I blocked her number, her social media, every single thread of connection we had. If she wanted to humiliate me, she would never get the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. I thought that was the end, until she came crawling back. In the days that followed, silence was my shield. I didn't answer her calls, didn't respond to her texts, but that didn't stop the ripple effect from spreading. Word got out fast, her friends whispered, her family started asking questions. Some were shocked, claiming they had no idea. Others, well, they admitted they saw it coming. They'd noticed the way she talked down to me, the way she craved attention no matter the cost. My friends, though, they didn't hold back. The moment I told them, they were furious. "Man, you deserve way better," one said, shaking his head. "We've been biting our tongues for months. We saw how she treated you, but you wouldn't listen. At least now you know." It stung to realize they'd noticed the red flags I'd ignored, but at the same time, their support was like a bomb. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I'd been betrayed. And then came her attempts to win me back. Dozens of texts. "Please, Kevin. It was a mistake." Long voicemails where her voice cracked with fake tears. One night, she even showed up outside my apartment, pounding on the door, begging me to let her in. It didn't mean anything. "I still love you. Don't throw this away." But I stayed silent. Not out of cruelty, out of necessity. She'd taken enough of me already. If this were a Reddit post, I can imagine the comments lighting up. "Good for you, Kevin. She humiliated you. and you walked away like a king. Classic toxic relationship, gaslighting 101. She tried to make you feel insecure while she cheated. Walking away without a word was the best revenge. Silence hurts more than shouting ever could. For the first time in a long time, I felt a strange sense of validation. People could finally see what I'd endured, and instead of pity, there was respect. Respect for not sinking to her level, for choosing dignity over drama. She thought I'd break without her. She thought I'd crawl back, beg for her love like scraps from a table. But she was wrong. The silence spoke louder than anything I could have said. And by the time she realized what she'd lost, I had already made my choice. I won't lie and say it was easy at first. The silence cut both ways. Nights felt longer, the bed colder. I caught myself reaching for my phone, half expecting her messages to still mean something. Memories came like waves, our first dates, the trips, even the fake laughter I thought was real. Loneliness is its own kind of ghost, and for a while it haunted me. But slowly, the weight began to lift. I started filling my time with things I'd forgotten I loved. Old hobbies, music, late-night runs where I could finally breathe. I reconnected with friends I'd pushed aside, the ones who had waited patiently while I drowned in her world. I threw myself into my work, not for her approval this time, but for my own pride. And with each passing week, I grew stronger. The silence stopped being a punishment. It became freedom, a choices. She kept trying. A text here, a message there, all the way up to months later. Each one sounded more desperate than the last. But I never replied. Not once. I realized answering her would have been like unlocking the cage I had finally escaped from. Looking back, I see it clearly now. Love is loyalty, yes, but only when it's mutual. What I gave wasn't weakness, but what I accepted was. Public humiliation, gaslighting, betrayal. Those aren't flaws. They're warnings. And ignoring them only teaches people how far they can push you. The greatest revenge isn't screaming, or exposing, or even retaliating. It's walking away with your dignity intact. It's proving to yourself most of all that self-respect is non-negotiable. She begged for another chance, but by then, it wasn't about revenge. It was about finally choosing myself.